Good evening, everyone. I will call the regular town council meeting of October 15th to order at 5 p.m. We've got the agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or deletions?
I have none, your worship, thank you.
Thank you. Someone move the agenda. Mr. Good.
Yes, as so moved.
Okay, moves the council adopt the agenda of October 15th regular council meeting as presented.
Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor of that motion? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, we have several sets of minutes here. The first one, the minutes of the September 16th regular council meeting. Had a chance to review those. If someone would like to put forth a motion with respect to them.
I'll move the council adopt the minutes of the September 16th regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you.
Conflicting dates on the agenda there. The proposed motion and the actual minutes. We'll fix it later, right?
Okay, so Mr. Scammahorn has moved the council adopt the minutes of the September 16th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented. All those in favor? Great, it is carried. Then we have the September 23rd special council meeting minutes. I would like to move on those ones.
I can move that.
Thank you, Deputy
That the
Mayor.
council adopt the minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 special council meeting is presented.
Thank you. All those in favor of that motion? It is carried. Thank you. Okay, now, someone has noticed a, mistake on, one set of minutes. So the July 22nd regular council meeting minutes, there were, some numbers that seemed to be transposed, shall we say. So you've, got a copy of that. Who does, Ms. Parsons?
Sorry, Mayor Mazur, just for clarification, I have a typo in here, so it's the June 24th minutes that had the typo, they were just on the July 12th regular council meeting agenda for adoption, so that's why the July 12th is referenced, but that's incorrect, it was the June 24th minutes that had the problem.
Okay, gotcha.
So the motions are written correctly, but the title was inadvertent.
Different. Okay, so the motion that was affected was motion 2030. Basically, this was the one grants to organizations. The Peace Country Rugby Club was getting $1,000 and Glen Mary School 5,000 instead of vice versa. So you've had a chance to think about that. Would someone care to move a motion? Mr. Good, if you could read
I
one.
move the council repeal motion 2407-243, which adopts the June 24th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay, then another motion with respect to those amended June 24th minutes. Mr. Ford. Okay, Mr. Ford is moving the council adopt the minutes of June 24th, 2024 regular council meeting as amended. Thank you. All those in favor? It is carried. Okay, public hearings. We do not have any public hearings tonight, nor do we have presentations. However, we're now into bylaws. So we have the Municipal Development Plan Amendment Bylaw number 2162, updating policy 621. And Ms. Modi's gonna brief us on this one.
Good evening, council. Yes, I'm here to present bylaw 2162, which is an amendment to the land use bylaw. This relates to the land use bylaw amendment that has come to council and has received second reading for bylaw 2149. That bylaw adds automotive electric services to a variety of land use districts in the town, including the Riverfront Development District, with the intention that that will allow a business that is operating in that location to apply for the permits required. That is inconsistent with the land use bylaw, or sorry, with the municipal development plan that exists today, because the MDP directs that we will adhere, to the enhancing downtown renewal and tourism report, which specifically directs that there should be no type of industrial use within the downtown, which is in conflict with this proposed use and the proposed business. So we have proposed or brought forward an MDP amendment that simply changes the operative clause of that policy from a shall to a may, which gives the town a lot more discretion and the ability to take a look at the surrounding area and make a considered choice about whether or not it's the correct option to apply that policy in a specific circumstance. So we have brought that forward based on council's motion. When you adopted second reading of that bylaw, you also directed admin to prepare this MDP amendment. So we've brought that forward today. So your options are to either provide first reading for the proposed update to the MDP, which is consistent with the proposed land use bylaw amendment, allows us to schedule the public hearing that's required and do the advertising that's required. The other option is to decline first reading of the bylaw, which updates the MDP. And most of the time, we only have one option for a first reading of a bylaw, but because this isn't based on an application, but is based on the direction of council, you do have the option to change your mind and decline to provide first reading of this bylaw. But it would be our recommendation, if you want to stick to the course that council was on, to provide first reading to bylaw 2162.
Okay, I think people remember the situation we were dealing with that caused all of it. Mr. Carr?
Just a couple of questions. Do we have a specific area that is designated as downtown?
Based on the tourism and the report, it would be the downtown, basically bridge to bridge, river road to the highway.
Okay, the next question is, you referred to it as industrial. Would that not be commercial installation of equipment, or does that really matter in this case? Because industrial is more it's not an installation of equipment, it's a building of equipment would be industrial.
Based on the automotive electric services use, we would classify that as an industrial use class. And it is going into a building that was also an industrial building. So yes, it would fall under the industrial.
Any other questions? Councilor Good?
Not really a question, I guess, it's just, excuse me, my only feeling is expediency. That or there's things moving at a snail's pace, and I'm not laying blame or whatever at anybody's feet, but and I understand that the riverfront commercial area, the whole, like you talked about the bridge to bridge and everything else was put in under different economic times, different whatever, 2009, which may seem recent to some, is actually a long time in a town's history. It's what, 15 years, 14, 15 years. But it's unfortunate that there aren't mechanisms, and I think we might, probably separate from this, but speaking to the expediency issues sometimes, it would be nice if there were ways of packaging. If this, then this, so you could do two in the same night kind of thing, so that you don't have to wait for 3-4 weeks or whatever amount of time from one meeting to another to take another step and then have a public hearing, which can be 2 to 3 to 4 weeks later, so you're now getting into some real time constraints. When everybody kind of seems to agree on where they want it to end up, and then you've got to go through this plotting process. So I'm just saying it might be interesting to see if there are mechanisms available that would allow an increase in the timing of events or the shortening of the timing of events. I'm not sure that there are, but it's just a feeling that I'm getting that you make one decision, then you got to sit back and wait for 3 weeks for another thing to come. And again, not laying any blame, and Because you have to operate within the constraints of, if it says shall, it doesn't mean may, it means shall. So I understand that part of it, but it's just unfortunate when you want to get from here to there, that sometimes it takes so long to get there. Anyways, I sort of understand the frustration of people who are trying to accomplish something and then they seem to be getting things in the way, not from their doing or lack of doing it, because they're just seeing the end goal where they want to go to. And then they're seeing our structures getting in the way. So I'll leave it at that, but I just think some thought given to that.
Mr. Fisher,
Thank you. I just wanted to address that, Councilor Carr. We have an issue, or sorry, Councilor Good, I apologize.
I'm not handsome like you.
I was just, I think I was looking at Brad when I said that. I just wanted to address that. We haven't issued a stop order to that business, so they're still operating, I believe.
so your comments might be for another
Well,
discussion later.
They were, and
So,
that,
yeah.
it wasn't really specified to this, that's why I didn't speak of this particular event.
Sorry if I could just jump in and make a comment as well. I do want to just highlight that in some circumstances where we know for sure what the direction is, then absolutely we would bring that forward at the same time. In this circumstance, if you'll recall that public hearing, the direction based on administration following the direction that was in the MDP, the recommendation for that was to not move forward with the land use bylaw amendment. So we needed council to indicate that we wanted to go a direction that was not consistent with the MDP.
Right.
If we were certain that that was where we were going, then we would have probably prepared it and tried to bring them along in tandem, which typically does often happen. Those things will travel together. In this circumstance, it didn't. But as Mr. Fisher stated, we also were working with the applicant the entire time and made sure that the process wasn't shutting down the business, knowing that we were going to end up in a place where we were going to be able to allow it.
Thank you.
okay, any further discussion on this topic? Oops. Would someone be prepared to bring forth a motion for first reading, perhaps? Counselor Good?
Hopefully I'm doing the right one. Move the council provides first reading of bylaw number 2162, which amends the municipal development plan bylaw number 1874 by updating policy 6.2.1.
Yes, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, then all those in favor of the motion? It is, oh, all those opposed, Ms. Mayor. It is carried. Thank you, Ms. Modi. And next up, you're going to tell us about another land use bylaw amendment, bylaw 2163, adding indoor participant recreation services to M1 and M18 or 1B, I guess, districts.
Yes, thank you. So we have received an application to amend the land use bylaw to allow gyms specifically in the industrial area of town. We've had a business that was previously located in the downtown where the use is contemplated move up into the industrial area on the West Hill, which is not a listed use in that area. So they have applied for an amendment to allow them to then operate in that location and apply for the appropriate permits. As we prepared a bylaw consistent with that application, adding indoor participant recreation service, which is the broad use that captures a gym and other types of indoor fitness activities to both the M1 and the M1B districts. So that covers both the industrial areas that are up on the West Hill, as well as the industrial areas that are by the Glenmary High School, which is the majority of the industrial land in the town. So this bylaw provides that use as a discretionary use in both of those districts, and by proceeding, we will allow the public hearing to be scheduled. So we would recommend that council provide first reading.
Thank you. Okay, so any further comments, questions on this topic? Yes.
The one question I would have is I'm wondering for the reason of making it a discretionary use in those areas compared to an authorized or no paid use. Only because I know of other, other towns and other places where the gyms are predominantly, a lot of them in those kind of gyms, wrestling clubs, whatever, are in industrial areas. So I'm wondering why we wouldn't make it allowed use, because usually they're not gonna go beside somebody, or the gym's not gonna go to a place where they don't feel that they're gonna be able to be there for a while, depending on who's next door. So I'm not sure they would have an objection to a shop going in next door or whatever, as long as they had their space available to them. Why wouldn't we make it an authorized use? And then it doesn't have to come for discretion. If a person applies, we can say, yeah,
Generally speaking, the rationale would be, because it is a broader use category with a variety of different use types in it, that not all of the things that are captured within that use might be appropriate in the industrial areas. Would be the reason to bring it for discretion. That being said, if council wants to proceed with permitted use, we could also amend the bylaw to provide that as the option.
you will,
So,
because I think it should be. I could make a motion and it could be declined or approved, correct?
so
So
just tell me how this works, CAO Miller, please.
I just want to weigh in that I would be personally concerned of it being a permitted use, because although the applicant might think that the leased property or the building they're gonna purchase would be perfectly suitable for their business, we have to look as a community as a whole and the people that would be participating in that business. So it could be a bad area for, I don't know, traffic, or perhaps the big wide turning trucks. I can't think of a scenario at the moment, but putting that kind of use as a permitted within an industrial leaves it wide open for some potential bad decisions. That then council has, or the community has no way of speaking against. Where when it's discretionary, then it goes to the municipal planning commission, and then people have opportunity to voice their opinion on that particular application on that particular location.
So, okay, so, Mr. Good is wanting this bylaw to read, a permitted use for indoor participant recreation services in any light industrial or mixed business. So is it at this point in time that we would decide to change that to permitted, if is the will of council, or is it at the hearing stage?
motion would be, the permitted use option would be chosen, if I'm correct, would be chosen by council to be brought forth in the first reading. If the amendment passes, then that's what would be brought to the public hearing, am I correct?
First reading has been given, so there could be first reading as amended. You could ask for the
Yes.
amendment prior to, then first reading given. And then that's how it would be brought forward to the
Right.
public hearing.
And-
Or
And also if people had worries about it at that point, they could bring up those concerns at that point, am I correct?
yes. But that would be not worries about particular applications. Obviously, it would be expressing concerns as a whole.
Yeah.
Or first reading could occur as presented, public hearing could be had, and second reading could be as amended if so desired.
Okay, so we don't have a motion on the floor at this point in time, so someone would make a motion of whatever sort with the word discretionary in it or the word permitted in it, right? Yeah. So somebody could make a motion at this point in time.
Well, based on my feeling, I'll make a reading that we have first reading of bylaw 2163. Which amends the land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participant recreation services as a permitted use to the light industrial M1 district and mixed industrial business M1B district.
So question, light industrial, I get that one. What would be, or where is our mixed industrial business? Where's that, an example?
It's the industrial area that is between the bridge in the north end to essentially Glen Mary. There's an industrial area between the bridge and the residential area. And then there's also some M1B lands that are up by the high school, the old Dodge Chevy, or not Chevy, Dodge dealership. Those are also M1B.
And then I might as well ask, okay, light industrial, I think I know, but maybe you'll give an example.
There would be the industrial lands by Salvac, going behind the basically but all along the industrial area that's along the south of the highway, sorry, on the West Hill is all industrial M1, and also the industrial lands that are going up Weberville Road.
102nd Avenue where I work, Armstrong Construction.
Yeah, okay, so, anybody else have discussion, questions at this point? Councillor
I
Scanlon?
guess my concern is that we only have like so much of this type of area in the town. And that, you know, circumstance may arise that we would require more of it and it's tied up for uses that could go elsewhere.
So how do you mean?
So for example, somebody would be looking to, you know, start a business or service that would be actually an industrial use and have nowhere to put it, and then we've got actual industrial use buildings being tied up that could be placed in other more suitable locations in the town, in other more suitable districts in the town. So we're expanding these uses into districts where they kind of don't make a whole lot of sense a lot of the time, but I would argue to keep it discretionary. So for example, in a lot of communities like indoor climbing gyms, these kind of work well in those types of buildings because they require, you know, height and that kind of thing and maybe more open space. So that would kind of make sense. So I can see, you know, that being a good use for it where a discretionary, you know, decision could be made in favor of it. But some other uses that would not necessarily require that type, then, you know, the municipal planning commission would have the option to say, oh, there's actually more appropriate indoor recreation space for your application elsewhere. And so I would argue to leave it as discretionary.
So a question then, say it became a permitted use, a gym goes into a building and the building next door, somebody says, well, I want to do this industrial thing there. Is it possible the industrial thing would get turned down because there's a gym next door?
Not there are still discretionary industrial uses in the industrial district, so I can't promise that that could never happen. It's unlikely that that would be recommended because it is an industrial district and with the primary purpose of providing for those industrial uses. That being said, depending on the nuisances that were associated with the use, there could be an objection, and if the gym next door decided that they wanted to appeal a decision for an industrial use that is discretionary, they would have that ability and it would go through the appeal process. So it's possible.
Okay, any other questions, clarification? Okay, Ms. Parsons, would you please read the motion?
Move that council provides first reading to bylaw number 2163, which amends land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participant recreation services as a permitted use to the light industrial M1 district and mixed industrial business M1B district.
Is everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? All those against the motion? The motion is defeated. As it was tied. So now where are we? Somebody could put another motion, I guess.
I would make the same motion, change out the word permitted for discretionary.
Any discussion on that motion? Okay, Ms. Parsons, if you wouldn't mind reading that motion.
I move that council provides first reading to bylaw number 2163, which amends the land use bylaw number 1891 by adding indoor participation recreation services as a discretionary use to the light industrial M1 district and the mixed industrial business M1B district.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Opposed? Okay, it is carried. Thank you. So we have passed the motion for first reading and discretionary use for gyms in those areas. Okay, next up, Ms. Modi is going to lead us through a development permit application 2024-46.
Yes, so we've received a development permit application for a change of use to contractor services at 9506 94th Street. That land is districted direct control and was redistricted direct control for the purpose of allowing for this application, which makes council the decision-making authority. So we are bringing it forward now for council's decision. We did prepare a development report. So as you can see on the report, this is an application to change to contractor services, which is the use of the business that is in place here. This is the old Fountain Tire building that is in the downtown area, which was originally built in 78 as a tire shop and warehouse. And the site now is a portion of that old structure with a portion that was removed in 22, where there is currently some on-site storage occurring. And we do have a number of site pictures that show the current site as it stands today. So we've got adjacent land uses include the town's bulk water station and road right of way. Also the old and proposed SPCA site, which we are expecting will be redeveloped. The CN rail to the north and to the south, there is a commercial building, the empty formerly Bell Center, and one residential property, a single detached dwelling immediately across the street. The municipal development plan does allow for minor variances to the land use types that are designated in the MDP. And given that this site is located on the edge of the downtown, it allows the discretion to consider this site not as within the downtown. And therefore, all of the policies related to the downtown applying to it. Another policy of the MDP that is relevant here is that the town shall ensure appropriate separation distances and transition between industrial and non-industrial uses. For the land use bylaw, this is a direct control district, and that district does give council the direction that you may refer to other sections of the bylaw in order to determine any specific requirements for the land uses being proposed within the direct control district. So some of the other sections of the bylaw that may apply at council's discretion include the parking requirements based on the site, the building, and the site itself. 4 parking stalls would be required. There is enough space on the site for 4 parking stalls, and there is also parking on the street, so there is no concern related to parking provision for this building. Within section 33, which is the mixed commercial residential district, which was the previous district that applied to the site before it was rezoned to direct control. It does direct that outside storage areas shall be screened from adjacent sites and public highways. So this district or this site is adjacent to residential and within the mixed commercial residential area, although it's now being considered within the direct control district. So it's up to council whether you would want to apply that direction about outside storage areas or not. The outside storage area is to the east of the building, meaning that the building is in between the storage area and River Road and the dike, which are the primary public highways. And the building itself provides a significant amount of screening to that area. So it's really just, would we require screening from 96th Street and 94th Ave. So we have provided, if council wanted to proceed with the outdoor screening as a requirement, we have proposed a potential condition that 6-foot fence be installed within the east side yard of the plan or of the lot to create a visual buffer between 94th Ave and the on-site storage area no later than 1 year from the date of the development permit. It is up to council whether you would want to apply that condition or not. The options are to approve the application for a contractor services business, to approve it subject to the special condition or any other condition that council deems to be required, or to deny the change of use application. It is our recommendation that council approve the application without any special conditions, because the amount of impact that that storage area has is negligible to the primary commercial streets that surround it. I can take any questions that you might have.
Councilors? So the intent, sooner or later, SPCA would be building just to the east of there as well,
Correct.
which might hide some of the stuff in here. So, councilors, any questions? Yes, Council Ward?
So the recommendation is to pass the application without conditions.
Correct. Just with our standard conditions, the standard development permit that we.
So no fence on the east side.
Correct.
Okay.
You want to report the motion?
I gotta find it. Mr. Worship, I put a motion on the floor that council approve the change of use development permit application 2024-46 for contractor services business at 9506 94th Street. Plan 7823128 block 15 lot 11.
Thank you. Any further clarification, discussion? Okay, everybody's clear on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you, Ms. Nadine.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna just take a little moment at this point in time. I skipped over unfinished business, of which we had none. So onwards we go. Next up, we have grants to organizations awards with Ms. Bell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. Before council this evening is the next step in the grants to groups application process. The 4 organizations did present at the recent Governance and Priorities Committee meeting just last week. The requests are as follows. North Peace Performing Arts Festival is requesting $2,000. Peace River Art Club is requesting $7,800. Peace River Curling Club have 2 separate applications. One is for MS Curling for a Cause event. Though they did not provide a specific request, there was a reference to $250 previously. So administration has tacked on a $500 request on that particular application. And the second request from Peace River Curling Club is for their Oktoberfest event in the amount of $2,000. To date, the remaining budget or the remaining budget for the council grants to organizations is $18,431. The request for these 4 applicants is $12,300. Administration provides council with a number of options related to this request, and I put forward that you provide direction of which one you so choose.
Thank you. So the other one that I noticed, a change on the art club requested 7,800, but the recommendation is, or the recommendation is for, was it 6,000?
Option one provided council with sort of a variation of
I shouldn't say recommendation, I should.
yes,
say
yeah, it
option.
was one of the options. The rationale behind the reduction was a specific ask in their application for staff, which is part of regular operations based on our definition of what a regular operation would be. However, council can choose to provide funding to the amounts of your choice, which is one of the other options also.
Thank you. Questions, discussion? Sounds good.
Well, it's more of a question than a point. We normally do not provide operational funds from the grants to groups, am I correct?
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
is that a policy or is that a procedure?
The policy previously had been a little clearer on no general operations. The current policy references the definition of operations, regular operations, general operations, but does not explicitly state that operations will not be funded. So it gives option to council to make a choice of how they'd like to proceed. Hence option 3, I think.
Thank you. Any further discussions? Would someone like to move us forward with,
Yeah, I'll make a motion. It'll be kind of like option 1 and kind of like option 2. That council provide, the amounts requested. So specifically the 2,000, the 500, the 2,000, and then the 7,800, just given the amount of space we have left in the current budget for the program. I see the, idea of doing, this isn't part of the motion anymore, you can stop typing, kid. I just see the idea of choosing, if it came down to preference and we were, say, over requested on the budget, then I might say, okay, we would not do the operation side of things because others are using or requesting not for operations. And so in my mind, that's kind of would just kind of give it a hierarchy. In this case, with the amount of space that we have left, and we still wouldn't be overdrawing or coming close to the top of the budget, that I would award everything as requested.
okay,
I would move that.
move that. Any questions or clarification of the motion? So Ms. Parsons, what do you have for a motion?
The council award the following intake 3 applications under the grants to organization program as follows. The North Peace Performing Arts Festival Association, $2,000. Peace River Art Club, $7,800. Peace River Curling Club, Curl for a Cause, $500. Peace River Curling Club, Oktoberfest, $2,000.
Thank you. That was your motion.
Yes, it's.
Everybody quit. Is everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mrs. Bell, for all the work on that. You know, one thing I'd like to suggest for these forms is that there be a section added bluntly, what is your ask? Because sometimes when I find when people give their own budget rather than following the form, it's kind of hard to know.
It's confusing.
Yeah,
I do have a ongoing listing of proposed and recommended adjustments for review of this policy. That is one of them.
well, thank you. And since you're sitting in the chair, you're now going to tell us about Peace River Library Board resignations.
That is correct, your worship. The Peace River Library Board has presented to administration and council two resignations from their library board, Myrna Mackinnon and Tulane Phelps. They have presented their resignations as of September and are presented this evening for council's acceptance.
Well, thank you. So yes, would someone please move to accept the resignations as deputy mayor?
I move that council accept the resignation of Myrna Mackinnon and Tulane Phelps from the Town of Peace River Library Board effective September 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just-
Yes,
A friendly amendment just with thanks for the service. That would be,
nobody has any objection? Thanks. Well, I learned a couple things.
oh,
Yep.
fair enough.
So nobody objects, then I can carry on. Once the motion, I've learned, once the motion has been read, then it's in possession not of the mover,
Okay.
but of kind of the whole council.
Okay.
So I keep trying to remember what I learned there, but anyway, so everyone is clear on the motion then? All those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you, Mrs. Bell. And still sitting on the chair, the Lions Campground CN land lease.
Thank you again, your worship. The report presented this evening is in regards to a proposed lease that CN has presented the town of Peace River in follow-up to a previous discussion with council in May. Lease was discussed with council at the governance and priorities meeting. As a brief highlighted summary, the property is proposed as the figure 1 within the report. An existing piece of property the town had previously had a campground lease with CN, but also includes approximately double the size of the location. The term of the lease would have been 50 years. Lease fee would have been $170,000, excuse me, in year 1 with a 1-year fee for every subsequent year. In addition, there was a lease to own clause within the agreement. Administration did provide council during the closed session of October 7th with more details and legal advice around a number of the clauses within the proposed lease. Excuse me. This report provides council with a number of options related to the proposed lease. Option 1 being entering into the lease as presented from CN. Option 2 is to pursue further negotiations with CN. And option 3 is for council to defeat the acceptance of the lease through a motion. And just to note, it is with great disappointment that administration brings forward this report, because we've been working on this for a number of years, both through a purchase option and this lease option, and this was not the outcome I think we were all looking for. So just a side note there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because as a town, we always see that coming and going from the west side, and it's a lovely property, but we have to take care of the whole town and future possibilities too, perhaps. Councilors, someone put forward a motion perhaps?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Just a question. I wasn't here for the last meeting when all of this was discussed. I am privy to the conversation. However, this does not affect, we received an email earlier on today, but this does not affect any other negotiations with CN for that property from anybody else other than the town.
CN is its own entity and has every right
Yeah.
to negotiate with any other party for any other business. As long as it's within our land use bylaw zoning requirement.
We'll give it a try, we'll
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so any further questions? Would someone perhaps put forth a motion? Councillor Carr?
I'd like to move the council declines to enter into a lease agreement with CN for the property adjacent to 8700 100th Ave, formerly known as the Lions Campground.
So, okay, so gotta remember now,
Need the
motion in a positive, yeah. It would be better to have it in the positive, because then if you vote no, you're
Oh,
not double negativing.
yes.
So maybe, how about instead of decline, enter into, and then if people want to decline, they vote no.
Yeah, that would work.
Okay, so would your motion read to have council direct administration to enter into a lease agreement with CN for the property adjacent to 8700 100 Avenue, formerly known as Lions Campground? That,
Option one.
okay,
That would work.
that would work. Okay, so Mr. Carr has so moved. Any further discussion? Okay, so everybody's clear on the motion. So if we're voting in favor, that means we're going to enter into the lease. If we vote no, that means we're not entering into the lease. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Thank you. It is defeated.
Disappointingly, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now Mr. Mugford is going to talk about enterprise vehicle lease buyouts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council. So 3 of the town's leased light trucks have reached the expiration of their leasing term. Town has an option to buy the vehicles out, continue to lease or exchange those vehicles for newer models. Bit of background, the town currently has a mixed portfolio of leased and owned vehicles. Unit 115's lease expired August 31st. The buyer of that unit was $19,552.59. Units 113 and 114 are coming up for expiry the end of October. So the town has the option to purchase those vehicles for about $21,000 a piece. All the units have been assessed and are in good working condition and low mileage. The average mileage is approximately 32,000 kilometers. So 3 options before council. Option was to purchase the vehicles for an estimated cost of $62,424.22. Advantages are it reduces our lease costs, it lowers the burden on the operating budget, and it lowers financing charges, which those charges exceed what our expected return on investment would be for our cash balances. Disadvantages are it will increase the average age of the fleet over time, and there's the opportunity cost, so we could have used those funds for other things. The financial implication is a $62,000 draw from MSI or LGFF grant funding to purchase the vehicles outright. And as I said, a reduction in the operating expenses. The second option would be to return the units to Enterprise and lease new vehicles. Advantages are it would reduce the average age of our fleet, and it would defer capital expenditure because again we'd be leasing them. Disadvantages increase our operating costs and increase the total cost of ownership. Option 3 would be to continue to basically extend the lease on the existing units. There's no advantages. The disadvantage would be higher operating costs and continued aged fleet. And financial implication would be that the lease remains in the town's operating budget for future years. So the recommendation from administration is that council approve the purchase of 3 2022 Ford F-150s for a cost of up to $62,425, with such purchase being funded through MSI/LGFF funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion on the topic? So using, we are taking from the MMSI LGFF funds, so that means there'll be 62,000 less to spend on light poles or something.
Correct.
But we're spending the money anyhow, because if we don't spend it on the buyout, we're still spending on a lease. So it's still coming from LGFF. Kind of.
Well, the leasing cost right now would be coming from our tax supported operating budget.
Mhm. Okay, any other discussion?
If you were to go on the open market and find a vehicle of that vintage with that many kilometers, you would pay much more than what the buyout is, significantly.
So would you like to make a motion?
I would. Okay. Move that council approve the purchase of three 2022 Ford F-150s, units 113, 14, and 15 for a cost of up to $62,425, with such purchase being funded through MSI/LGFF.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we're all clear on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mugford. And now you're going to talk about long-term debt repayment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Administration is seeking direction from council as to whether to elect early payments or early repayment for selected higher interest loans. So the town holds various forms of long-term debt and capital lease obligations. The majority of this is debenture debt ranging in rates from 1.416% up to 5.096%. And the maturity dates on this range from 2026 all the way through to 2050. In addition to that, there's also a loan repayable to Vision Credit Union, which is at prime plus 1.5%. So prime is currently at 6.45 for a total of 7.95% interest on this loan. The loan matures in September 2030, but can be paid off early without penalty. As of July 31st, 2024, the balance was $291,640.13. Additionally, there are capital lease obligations to Caterpillar Financial Service Limited. Payments on the leases are monthly and continue until 2029 or 2030. So there's three items here. The compact track loaders at 7.1%. The balance on that was $114,676.10. The wheel loaders, again, 7.1%, and it's $369,189.05. And the excavator is at 6.6%, and it's $107,486.79. And all of those would include GST if we were to exercise our option to purchase them out early. In addition to that, there is $1,000 plus GST termination charge for each lease if we were to exercise that option. Currently, the town receives interest rates on its deposits ranging from 4.65% to 4.95%. And again, that's tied to the bank rate. So as the bank rate goes up or down, that balance or that percentage will shift. The town's cash position has improved to a point where we can repay or select higher interest debt. So the options before council this evening are for council to direct administration to repay those four items: the Vision Credit Union loan, the compact track loader, the wheel loader, and the hydraulic excavators capital leases. The advantage is it pays off higher interest debt. It reduces the burden on the operating budget. It increases the municipality's available borrowing limit if needed. Disadvantage is it reduces our available cash on hand, and the financial implications are savings on interest, which exceed the interest that we would get on interest revenue if we were to hold that as cash. Option 2 would be council to decline and council declines to direct administration to repay those loans. So again, the advantage there is you retain cash for other purposes. The disadvantage is we would continue to incur interest costs at more than the risk-free rate of interest. And the financial implication is higher interest expense. The recommendation is that council direct administration to repay the following long-term debts from the general capital reserve. So again, Vision Credit Union loan of $291,640.13. Compact track loader, $114,676.10. The wheel loader, $396,189.05, and the hydraulic excavator, $107,486.79 plus GST. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
So a total of about, give or take, 800,000.
Yeah, apologies. I didn't total it up for you. But yeah, it's in that range.
So I guess one of my questions is, we've been told that the LGFF, we're getting an increase this year. But in 2026, I guess, we're expecting to take a decrease because of the way they average the provincial revenues, economy sort of thing. So does that have any longer term implication for the town? If we have less money 2 years from now and we've used LGFF to pay this off, the capital to pay it off or something?
Yeah, so Madam Mayor, the recommendation is to use general capital reserves. So it's not tied specifically to grant funding. Again, the situation could arise in the future that we need to borrow, and again, I guess the risk would be if we need to borrow in the future at higher rates, would it be higher than what we're paying on these balances? Again, where the market is at right now, I would expect if we went back to Caterpillar Finance to finance those assets, we'd be paying it at a slightly higher rate than when we secured those loans at this point. I don't know that would be the case on the Vision loan. I suspect we could borrow through other channels for less than that.
Thank you. Councilors, questions? Okay, would someone like to put forth a motion? Councilor Good?
Do you want the motion read, like move the recommendation, or do you want me to read out all the numbers?
Well,
I can do either.
do the full thing then, please.
Okay, I'll move the council direct to administration to repay the following long-term debt from general capital reserve: Vision Credit Union loan, $291,640.13. Compact track loader, $114,676.10 plus GST. Cat wheel loader, $369,189.05 plus GST. And hydraulic excavator, $107,486.79 plus GST.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Any further discussion on motion? Everybody's clear on the motion? Okay, then, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Good, it is carried. Thank you, Mr. Mumford. And now you're talking about budget timelines.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So just wanted to provide an update to council on the timeline for the 2025 budget. So in September, an operating budget workshop was held with council to hear input on operational service levels. We're also planning for a capital workshop after this meeting this evening. Current timeline for approval of the budget is as follows: so November 4th, so the GMP meeting will be bringing forth the utility and tax supported operating budgets. For November 12th, so that regular meeting will be reviewing the 2025 capital budget along with the updated 5-year capital plan. November 25th, at that regular meeting, will be the second review of the utility operating, tax supported operating and capital budgets, and introduction of the 3-year operating plan. And then December 9th, 2024, so at that regular meeting, approval of operating, the tax supported and utility operating budgets and the capital budget, along with approval of the 5-year capital plan and 3-year operating plan. In addition to the public's ability to attend these meetings and make comments, there'll also be an opportunity for discussion and input as part of the Christmas open house. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
And Christmas open house is December 5th. Okay, December 5th. Good. Councilors, any questions on that timeline? So we'll kind of have a start tonight with the workshop after this meeting. Would someone care to put forth a motion accepting the briefing note regarding the 2025 budget timeline for information. Deputy Mayor.
Move that council accept the briefing note regarding 2025 budget timeline for information.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you, Mr. Rutherford.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the appointment of returning officer for the 2025 municipal election. Ms. Parsons is going to brief us.
Thank you, Mayor Manager. This is a fairly routine motion or request coming forward. So under the Local Authorities Election Act, unless council wants the CAO to act as the returning officer, they must appoint a returning officer by motion. So this is just recommending that you appoint myself as the returning officer for the 2025 municipal election. And it also requires that when appointing a returning officer, that you also provide for a substitute returning officer in the event that the appointed cannot act for any reason.
Great. Any questions on the matter? Okay, would someone like to put forth a motion?
I'll move the council appoint Kayla Parsons, Legislative Service Coordinator, as returning officer for the 2025 municipal election, and CAO Barb Miller to serve as substitute returning officer.
Thank you. Everyone clear on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, it is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Parsons, and looking forward to all that work. I'm sure. Okay, next up, we have reports. We have some attended or event. Start again. We have some council event attendance reports. First one up is mine, and I put a list on it of the resolutions that were either passed or defeated at the Alberta Munis conference. Found that to be interesting. Anybody have questions on that one? Mr. Goods is up next. Mr. Good, do you want to highlight anything? Okay, and this was for the month of September. Okay, next up, Mr. Scannamore. Anything there you want to highlight? Month of August, September together?
I had one thing in August with a piece of paper.
Okay. Okay, so we have those ones, and then we have the September 12th Town of Peace River Library Board meeting minutes. Mr. Boychuk, did you have anything you wanted to highlight there?
We're just still welcoming in our new executive director, and we had a few board members, short-term board members resign. But I was just trying to find the email here. We have CPC showing up at our library tomorrow to just do a pre-meeting for their feature on our community and our library here next month. So that's kind of exciting. And yeah, so we got a pretty good board going. We're having a supper here next week just to look at the exit interview and see what kind of recommendations our last executive director made and what direction we want to go in from that. And yeah, things are looking good.
And you're now looking for a couple more board members?
Yes.
How many do you have then now? 5?
I believe there's 5 of us right now, or 6, including the executive directors.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Boychuk? Then perhaps someone would move the council accept reports 9.1 and 9.2 for information. Councillor Carr so moves. Everybody's clear on the motion. All those in favor?
It was pretty clear.
Opposed? Okay, it is carried. We have the council communication package of October 4th. Anybody want to bring forth something there? Notice the fire department open house, which was this past Saturday. Looked like it was well attended. And lots of kids had fun going up in the ladder or watching the big flame erupt, sort of thing. Okay, how about October 7th? Okay, that's just information. October 7th, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee draft meeting minutes are also included. And perhaps someone would like to move the council accept items 10.1 and 10.2 for information. Councillor Boychuk, maybe?
Sure.
Okay, so Councillor Boychuk, so moved. If that's clear, all those in favor? Opposed, it is carried. Thank you. Do we have a notice of motion? Notice the motion,
I have none, your worship, thank you.
comments from the public? Okay, key communication items from this meeting.
Long-term debt payment or short-term debt payment, whatever that one was. Debt payment.
Debt payment. Grants to groups or grants to organizations.
CN being put to bed.
CN Lines Campground. Okay. What else? Okay. Works.
Do we want in the communication for the campground to discuss our main concern as to the reason for it? Because some people provide, why wouldn't you support it? And I think if we point out the long-term environmental exposure, it could be massively expensive. The town is probably the driving factor. I'm not sure if everybody agrees with that, but that would be my recommendation, have that included on there.
So some of the reasons for it, so admin can flesh that out, Ms. Bell, or with Mrs. Bell. Okay. Okay, I see that we had Apex at the meeting here earlier, and I was going to thank them for their service to the town in the past 3 months. There's been a noticeable difference. I think everyone would agree. It's just unfortunate that the finances sometimes get in the way of some good things. So we'll have to look to the future to see how we can continue with our town's safety and security in mind and see what we can come up with. And we have the RCMP as well to look to, so we'll go from there. Anybody else want to add anything to the Apex?
We are shortly starting with our new director position, so that's, you know, something else that could potentially provide some solutions.
Yeah. So our director of protective services will oversee fire and other aspects of community security. Anything else anybody wants to? Okay, so we do have one closed item. Do you want to go into closed now and do that, and then we'll come out in the meeting and then we go into our workshop? That work? Okay, nobody's saying they object, so I guess it will work. Would someone move us into closed? Councillor Carr so moves at 6:08.